What is going on, everyone? My name is SiahZ, and in today's video I really wanted to go over the crafting system in Path of Exile 2 and really show you guys how you can make some really insane items while you're going through the campaigns. Because man, some of these bosses you encounter while actually going through the campaign can definitely hard lock you if you're not geared properly. So I wanted to show you guys on how I've been crafting my gear throughout the campaign that has really allowed me to shred these bosses and not really have too much trouble going through the axe. If you guys do enjoy the video, if you could consider hitting that like and subscribe button, it really lets me know you guys are enjoying the videos, and it really does help with the YouTube algorithm in more ways than you guys could imagine. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is actually what's the process of making good items. Now there's multiple ways of doing it, but the main way that you're going to basically be doing it through the campaign is simply RNG rolling on your orbs onto white and blue items. Now, for example, this one is a really good chest that I made, and I just went for evasion base body armors, and you kind of really want to look for base types. Now, what I mean by that is, for example, if I'm going for like a dual string bow or anything like that, I want to look for dual string bows and get a lot of them. There is no way to wipe this like there was in PoE 1 and completely turn it back into a white and recraft on it. Once you kind of mess up your craft or you get bad rolls on it, you kind of have to restart all over and find another item. So we want to make sure that we're collecting a good amount of base items like this dual string here, so we can have a good plethora of craftable items. So once we do that and we know what base types we want to go for, we actually need to figure out what currency we need to use. Now, the main things you're going to be using is the orbs of transmutation and orbs of augmentation. Now, how do you get transmutation? How do you get the regal orbs to actually upgrade your blues into rares, etc.? Now that's pretty simple, that you guys probably already know, but I'm going to go over it quickly, and that's actually just disenchanting. You basically just got any NPC that you can actually do this on, and if you throw in any rares, you'll get a regal shard, and any blues, you'll get a transmutation shard. Basically, we sell those, we disenchant them, it breaks them down, and once we collect 10 regal shards, we'll get a regal orb. And once we collect 10 transmutation shards, we'll get a transmutation orb. So basically, that's how we go ahead and we get a regal, we get our transmutation and stuff like that to actually go ahead and start crafting. Now, for example, we're going to use these rawhide boots. I'm level 22. These are pretty kind of low base boots, but still this will suffice as an example. So the first thing we're going to do, and what I did all through campaign, is I would collect these items, go through an area. Oh, there's a dual string bow that dropped, or whatever the case may be. For now, we'll just say rawhide boots. This is what I want to do to upgrade to get more defenses. I would go orb of transmutation to turn into a magic. That would roll, a modifier. We actually got a pretty good maximum life roll. Now, the one way to tell if you did get a good roll is by pressing Alt on the keyboard. On controller, I'm not too sure what it is. And you can actually see what the tier is. This was a T3 roll of max life. Now, obviously, the higher that number is, so for example, T4, T5, T6, the better the modifier roll will be. So to figure that out, basically, is you want to have a good item level base. That'll determine on what the tier can be of your modifiers. This is item level 22, so we're pretty much getting for the best modifier rolls we can actually roll on this item. The higher the item level, the better the tiers of modifiers and can be on the item. So now we're going to go ahead and use an orb of augmentation, add another modifier on the item. We got life regeneration, so it is bad. We would want to have like a res roll or increased evasion or added evasion or something like that on the boots. But for example, this will suffice, as I could show you at least on how you would go about doing it further. So if you got two things you like on the item, even this one isn't bad. If we're just starting out and we don't have too much currency, I would still use these boots. We would then regal it, and that would turn it into a rare. So once we regal it, we see it goes into a rare. This is stun threshold, so it is pretty bad. We only got one thing we actually like out of these whole boots, and I pretty much from here would kind of deconstruct them unless these are better than the boots I'm running. Obviously, starting out, you want to be trying to craft as many times as you can, as often as you can, to actually keep your gear on the current level and to keep upgrading throughout the campaign, so this way you're not going to get hard stuck hit bosses. So now, after we do this, since we do see a socket on here, we could then go ahead and further modify the item. So for example, when I was actually running the campaign, I was actually using these recurve bows here. This basically, once we have what we like, we can add these sockets by simply going ahead and adding artificer orbs. Now, the way you get these basically is just by going to the salvage bench. Whatever item has sockets, you can basically click on and deconstruct, and you'll get the artificer shards. Once you collect enough of them, you'll get the orb. So basically, we can click on any item and that'll add a socket. From there, we can use our runes. Now, as you can see, if we add these to armor, we'll get cold res for glacial, desert will get fire res, etc, etc. And we can actually add reses and other stuff that our character, maybe is falling short of on like different reses or max life, or other stuff in areas that the runes can actually cover. So basically that's how you're going to be wanting to craft and constantly upgrading your gear. Like I said, obviously depending on what build you're running, depending on what items you're going to need and rolls on those items will determine whether or not you're going to be running, one item or the other. But for me, for like a bow user, running tri-LE with attack speed is absolutely huge, especially getting it early on like I did with this bow. This carried me for a very long time throughout Acts 1 and 3. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for that. Like I said, just make sure you're checking too with the tiers, and obviously keep in mind that the lower the item level means the lower the tier of modifiers can roll. So don't be expecting T7s and 8s and higher tier modifiers with low base item levels. So the last thing you would do if you're trying to min-max gear would be using Chaos Orbs. This basically just re-rolls a modifier on a rare item. So this is like a min-maxer's dream. You're not going to be really doing this in the campaign, because obviously if you get 4 modifiers and 3 of them are good and 1 of them is not, you're not going to re-roll and take that chance of re-rolling one of the good modifiers. This is more end game, but that's still there if you guys are trying to min-max. Now we can talk about the more deterministic crafting through going through the campaign. You're not going to get a lot of these, but you're still going to get some of them, and they're definitely worth using. And these are essences. So for example, this one upgrades a normal item to a magic with 1 fire modifier. So what we can do basically is if, we have a piece of gear that we want to try to get fire res, we can go ahead and make sure it's a white, use this essence on it, and it'll turn that into a magic, and it'll throw a fire modifier on it with a really good chance of being fire res. So this is kind of a way you can get deterministic crafting, where you can get a way better chance of getting what you need. And these can go from life modifiers to speed to, modifiers to a bunch of different stuff, to attack modifiers. So you can really try to hone in on what you're trying to actually craft and get. But this is more for later game. Through the campaign, you're not really going to have a lot of these, which is why you're going to have to resort to the old fashioned, orbit transmutations and exalted orbs spamming to get more modifiers on your rares and other stuff. But this definitely is an option later on. That basically kind of wraps it up. And if you keep consistently trying to upgrade, once obviously you find the items that you want to actually craft on, you're pretty much not going to have too much issue going through the campaign. You're going to have the gear on appropriate for the bosses you're going against, and you're going to be doing a good amount of damage to where you shouldn't have too many issues with the bosses, obviously determining, what build you're going and stuff like that. But this is how I went through Acts 1 to 3, and this is how I made sure that my gear was up there doing a lot of damage and keeping me alive, and I didn't have really any issues at all. If you guys have any questions about the video, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd be glad to answer them. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, depending on when you're watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.